Afternoon, and welcome to Scottsdale Development Review Board public meeting. The purpose of the Development Review Board is to maintain the quality of development in Scottsdale by reviewing all of the design aspects of a proposed development and the relationship of its design components to the surrounding environment and community. The board also reviews all preliminary plats for subdivisions to ensure conformance to policies and ordinance requirements. The agenda consists of the roll call, public comment on non-agendized items, administrative report, minutes approval of the prior meeting, and action items. A roll call vote will be taken after each item's motion. The liaison will call each board member's name to indicate the desired vote for that item. After the vote has been counted, the liaison may read out the final vote. Citizens wishing to speak during public comment time or to speak specifically on an agenda item may fill out a blue request to speak card to the staff table before the agenda item is to be discussed. Citizens interested in submitting a written comment on any item may submit a yellow written comments card in person to the staff table prior to the beginning of the public testimony. When called, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and then begin speaking. Groups wishing to speak should elect a spokesperson to represent the views of the group. To facilitate the meeting, your comment will be limited to 3 minutes for individual speakers, with 1 additional minute for each additional individual present at the meeting who has contributed their time to a representative speaker, up to a total of 10 minutes. I remind our audience that the board's review relates to design matters and does not include consideration of existing zoning district designations, zoning entitlements, or the allowed uses within the zoning district. The board's motion may be to approve with modified stipulations, to deny the request, or continue. Thank you for your interest and time. Now we will begin the meeting with the roll call.
Councilwoman Janik.
Present.
Vice Chair Joyner.
Present.
Board Member Brand.
Here.
Board Member Peaser. Absent. Board Member Faki.
Present.
Board Member Mason.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
6 here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the minutes. Let's move to approve the regular meeting minutes of the March 21st, 2024 Development Review Board meeting as presented.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Janik.
Approve.
Vice Chair Joyner.
Yes.
Board Member Brand.
Yes.
Board Member Faki.
Yes.
Board Member Mason.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Minutes pass 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Janik,
Yes.
I believe that we bypassed the administrative report from Mr. Carr.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Do you have an administrative report for us?
Thank you, Councilwoman Janik, members of the board. Good afternoon. This afternoon, we do not have any public comment on non-agendized items. I just want to make that note as well. For my administrative report, I just wanted to state that I do not think we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks, the second meeting in May. So this will be the final meeting for Councilwoman Janik. We want to thank you for your time with us again, as well as Planning Commissioner Gonzalez. Appreciate your time as well with us. But we'll probably be meeting again early June. I think that's June 6th is when that falls on. And that concludes my administrative report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we want to move on to the consent agenda. Start with public comment on any of these items. I guess we'll look at 32 DR 2022, 23 DR 2023, 34 DR 2023, per staff recommend stipulations after finding that the development application meets the applicable Development Review Board criteria. Do we have any comments from council? Want to start with them?
I actually would like to move the 3 items on the consent agenda to regular agenda. If
All
that's
3 of them?
Okay with Chair? Yes.
All
please.
3 items? Okay, so all 3 items have been moved to a regular agenda, And we will have staff presentation first on 32DR 2023.
If I may, Councilwoman Janik and Commissioner Gonzalez, were you looking for a specific presentation, or you have specific questions on those?
On item 3 and item number 5, I'd like to see more than just questions from me. I'd like to see what the presentation is about. I think the items are, at least for me, are complex enough where I'd like to be able to see and ask a couple of questions after the presentation.
Okay, we will start with staff presentation on item number 3 then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to vote on the consent item for item 4 then? Or is he pulling
No,
4
he's-
also?
I believe 4 is being pulled for regular agenda. Okay.
All right, good afternoon, Councilwoman Janik, Commissioner Gonzalez, members of the DRB. My name is Wayland. I'm the project coordinator for 32DR 2022 AutoNation Ford renovation. I have a staff presentation prepared for you. To start with the project summary, it consists of a new rooftop parking deck addition with some accompanying landscape and hardscape improvements at the existing Ford automotive dealership, which is within the Air Park area. For a context aerial, we see that the site is at the southeast corner of Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard and Northside Boulevard, surrounded by similar uses, auto repair, dealership facilities, and offices. You can see the Scottsdale Airport directly towards the west, as well as Arizona Canal further north of the project site, and the Freeway 101 exchange at the eastern side of the screen. As we zoom in, we see that the automotive dealership site is already existing and improved, and directly adjacent, we do have the Hyundai to the west across Northside Boulevard, and the Buick GMC dealership directly towards the east. Zoning for the site and the others that I mentioned are all C4. This site also was one of the first in this area for an auto dealership, I believe in the late 1980s. For a site plan overlay, we see the proposed improvements for the site. The existing showroom towards the front will remain unchanged. However, the rear 2/3 would include that parking deck addition, and some of the areas will be fleshed out to make it a little bit more cohesive for that rooftop addition. Some minor parking striping to the rear. The intent, based on the application, is for inventory parking and as well as some employee parking. Towards the front of the site, the existing patron parking will remain the same, as well as the circulation. For a simplified site plan, we can see in the dark gray are those building improvements on the site. There's also going to be a detached proposed car wash at that bottom left corner there, which is the south of the site. Since this site is directly adjacent to Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard, some of the design guidelines for landscaping are triggered with this proposal, understanding that the applicant is looking to expand the site and to have some of their inventory vehicles on display. Some vehicle display pads are included with this proposal along Frank Lloyd Wright to adhere to those Frank Lloyd Wright design guidelines, including the native plant landscaping along the frontage, including extending along Northside Boulevard. For the elevations, you can see on that bottom image in the hatch area, that's the existing front showroom that will not be part of this scope of work. The addition will be matching the existing Ford dealership to include that rooftop parking deck. Another elevation, the bottom in that hatched area is the existing showroom not included with the scope of the work. Bottom right-hand corner is an image of the existing automotive dealership and the proposed paint palette to complement the existing building. Here's some isometric perspectives of the proposal, and you can see clearly there that parking deck is on top of the car service area towards the rear of the site, and that front is that angled showroom area. So to summarize some of the key items there, the site is subject to the Frank Lloyd Wright design guidelines as well as the Greater Air Park Character Area Plan, and staff has not received any public input on this project proposal. The formal request for you today is approval of the site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations for an exterior modification to an existing vehicle sales repair facility on a approximate 5.5-acre site located within the Air Park area at 8555 East Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard with the general commercial C4 zoning. Staff recommendation today is for approval, subject to the case stipulations that are in your packet. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm here for any questions. The applicant team, Nina with RSI, is also here with a PowerPoint presentation for you.
Thank you. I think we'll proceed with the applicant presentation and then take questions following that.
Good afternoon. My name is Nina Ray with RSI Group, representing AutoNation and the Ford dealership. We have worked closely with staff on the design for the building to make sure that it's complying with the design criteria and the landscaping and all the other criterias. And we agree with all the stipulations of what would be required for us to do the renovation. And if you guys have any questions, we are here to answer any questions for you guys.
Thank you. All right, let's start with...
So this is the presentation that we had put together. If you'd like to see the renderings, that's on the screen right now. That ends our presentation.
Thank you. Nobody has requested to speak, okay. Anybody? Okay. Barney?
Thank you. First of all, are you modifying the parapet, the surround area on the roof? Is the height going to be the same level as the cars it is now, or are you going to raise the elevation also, front elevation?
The front elevation, my name's Adam Polk with AutoNation, Director of Development and Construction. The front elevation will remain unchanged. However, the parking deck in the back will be at an elevated level.
Okay, so basically, back there right now, I imagine the structure was engineered at the time for the weight of the vehicles that you're planning to park up there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so was that already pre-engineered when you built the building originally, or are you going to modify the structure to hold the extra weight up there?
The structure will be new. The parking deck structure will be entirely new.
Okay, is there going to be a raised parapet on that, also hiding the cars, or the cars going to be exposed on the top?
Yes, there will be a parapet.
Do you know what the height of that parapet will be?
I don't know if shown on the plans.
Yeah, just in round numbers, it could be 6 feet.
Approximately 4 feet.
Approximately 4 feet?
Correct.
So you're saying that from the roadway, you're not going to be able to see the vehicles? Or is that the intention?
Rooftops.
That would be the intention, to conceal them as much as possible. Now, if there's a big truck, it may be visible parked on that front elevation.
Okay, so basically, you're gonna, the surrounding parapet that you're gonna design up for that area will be at least 4 foot in height, and that's, a normal sedan vehicle is probably what, about 42 inches, 48 inches, would you say?
Correct.
Okay. I guess that would be my main question, is that you cannot see the vehicles from the roadway exposure. I understand the need for the parking and everything. Quite frankly, I know that dealership fairly well, and I can see why you need the parking, because it is kind of a log jam back there as it is right now. Do you have the landscape plan with you guys right now?
The landscaping were part of the plans that the planner had presented. Can we bring that up?
Well,
Jason, can we flip over to the staff presentation? Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
yeah, I would just wonder, is everything that you have for the landscape plan, is this your landscape plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what are you utilizing for? Is the landscape plan going to encompass the total area or only the new area that you're expanding on?
It's for the new areas that we are expanding on.
So
And
you-
some of the existing planters that are in the front would remain. So we want to minimize as much as we can on the rest of the site.
Minimize what?
Not touching the areas that will not be affected.
Okay, so you're not adding any new landscaping to the planning area that you have already?
Whatever shown on the plans is what we are adding.
Councilwoman Janik, Commissioner Gonzalez, there will be enhanced improvements to the existing landscaping, so there will be new landscaping part of the plant palette. Thank you.
Okay, do you have those plans? Does the city have those plans?
Councilwoman Janik, Commissioner Gonzalez, in the packet, there is an attachment for the landscape plan. This, what's on the screen is a summarization of their landscape components for their landscaping.
Can I ask a question real quick? With regard to the landscape plan, is it safe to say that the landscape pieces that are colored are the ones that are being added to site, and things that are in black and white are existing inventory?
Councilwoman Janik, Board Member Brand, that's correct. There's also going to be native plant salvaging for the site because there are protected native plants. So it's a combination of salvaged and new landscaping for the site. Thank you.
I guess maybe I was looking for more of a landscape plan than that. Obviously, I saw the one in the packet. I was not too happy with what I received in the packet. But if that's all they have, then you've answered my questions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we can work with the staff on any of the landscaping requirements to make sure that they're satisfied and you guys are.
Well, I'm not a landscape architect, but
sorry.
I've definitely seen, a little bit better landscape plans than this happen upon application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have more questions?
I wanted to get a little bit of clarity. So the structure that you're putting in there is a precast. You're replacing that. You're doing a full demo of the service area on the backside, and you're replacing with an elevated precast deck. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think that your existing structure that you have there for the service department is a high bay building in the back, correct? You've got what's your clearance right now to the bottom of the structure of the existing building?
To the bottom of the existing, I believe, is close to 15 feet.
15, okay. And what you're building here, bottom of structure of the new deck, is it relatively the same height, up to 15 feet, or is it
On the underside, yes.
on the
15.
underside? So you're maintaining your same clearance levels for this, you're just replacing it instead of a long span roof structure, you're transitioning to a parking deck?
That is correct.
Okay.
And the intent is to add parking and improve working conditions by conditioning the
Right.
interior of the space.
And I think the finish that you're putting on the deck, is it painted or is it a exposed precast integral color?
On the.
On the precast deck, the walls, is it painted?
It receives it receives a coating.
Okay. So I didn't know if it was stained or painted or if it was a natural precast finish. I didn't recall from the application.
On the parking deck, the elevation,
The walls of the precast parking deck?
the walls will be whatever the color on the.
Okay, it's a painted okay.
Yeah.
No, just in general, I've reviewed the application. I think as far as the use and it's actually the same use that's to the dealership directly to the east and to the west is an elevated high bay parking garage. I feel like it fits in with the surroundings. And they can't build this parking garage without at least a 42-inch parapet detail, and with the slope of the garage, it'll probably be closer to 48 inches, which we've seen is consistently, as long as it's solid precast, which is your probably cheapest way to do that, it's gonna hide any sort of visual impact of the car. So I'm just expressing support of the application, but I would also agree that our expectation for these type of projects, if there's any landscape modification, is to have a full rendered landscape plan for this board to review as part of the application. So that's to consider next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments or questions? Are we comfortable moving on to the next item? Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Excuse me, Councilwoman Janik. If
Yes.
you would, if the board would like to take a vote on that first before moving to the next item, that's preferred.
A vote on
On this item
this
first.
item?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a
okay.
motion. I'll make a motion to approve item 32-DR-2022 per the staff recommended stipulations after finding that development applications meet the applicable Development Review Board criteria.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Janik,
Approve.
Vice Chair Joyner,
Yes.
Board Member Brandt,
Yes.
Board Member Faki. Yes. Board Member Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
I'm going to vote no because of the lack of detail in the landscaping.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move along now to item number 5, which again, questions on that, correct? 34DR 2023,
I thought he
or do you want me to go to 4?
pulled them all, so.
Did you pull them all or have questions? You pulled them all, okay. All right, then we'll move right along to number 4, which is 23DR 2023, take 5.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman, Commissioner, board members. My name is Katie Posler, and I'm here to present Take 5, which is case 23DR 2023. The site is located east of the northeast corner of North Scottsdale Road and East Shea Boulevard. To the north, east, south, and west are existing commercial developments. Here's a closer look at the property. It's currently home to a dry cleaner facility with an associated drive-through. The zoning on the site is C3, which stands for Highway Commercial. The request in front of you today is for approval of a site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations for a new oil change facility located at 7234 East Shea Boulevard. Here is the proposed site plan. The proposed building is approximately 1,628 square feet. It's one story. Access to the property remains the same from Shea. Vehicles will enter along the rear of the building as required by code and then exit along the south side facing Shea. Screening was a big component of this land use. So some of the items that were implemented were a 30-foot landscape setting along Shea, a new 6-foot tall wall that's half CMU and half view fence, also abutting the landscape area to screen the drive aisles and the parking. The project was also revised to extend a wing wall, which you can see on the northwest corner of the building, and also an extended facade along the south portion of the building so that the bay doors are more hidden. Here's the applicant's proposed landscape plan. Right now, the existing building that's there has about a 10-foot setback from the front property line. The code minimum for landscaping is 20, and this site plan is providing a 30-foot landscape buffer to kind of match what is already existing along Shea in terms of the width. And additional trees have also been added to the front openscape area. The minimum open space for this site is around 2,000 square feet and is providing a little over 6,000. Here are the building elevations. So the north side is facing interior to the center, and the south side is facing Shea. And then here is the east and the west side, which are the sides of the building. It includes neutral colors, stone veneer, and also caramel cladding. You can see on the bottom image, which is the west elevation, that extended facade area. Here's some perspectives along Shea, which you can see that a little more clearly with the bay doors behind it. And then here's from internal into the center, and also where the vehicles would be entering. And then here's just a closer image along Shea where you can see the new landscaping, the 6-foot wall behind that, and then the building. That concludes staff presentation, but the applicant is also here, and we're both here for questions.
Okay. Thank you. I think we will proceed with the applicant presentation as well.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman and members of the board. Here representing Take 5 and part of the Shea Scottsdale Center. Really just, I'll go through this. I don't think we need to go through everything, but it really more on the perspectives. We've been working with staff, with Katie. She's been wonderful. As Katie mentioned, screening was the focus. The additional landscape buffer, where it's 10 feet right now, we're adding 20 feet. We're adding significant number of trees and shrubs, as well as which one is the one that moves? Oh, there it is. You can do there. Oh, okay. So this is existing there. And as you can see, I don't know if this points, but one of the reasons why we used the cladding was because of that existing building right adjacent to us. As you can see there, about 10-foot landscape where we're adding 30 feet. There's the site plan, landscape plan, and here's a copy of, an elevation of the screen wall trellis. So that runs along the frontage and part of the side on Shea Boulevard and part of the side of the internal drive. So we have a masonry wall that matches the existing, and then we're doing a steel trellis on top with some landscape as well. The focus point was the additional setback, if you will, of the facade. Normally, as you see the bay doors behind, that's what normally our front of the building would be. So this is coming out about 10 feet, and we left it open. We have some steel beams just from a structural support and shear but we left it open because we still want to have some daylight in there, and we don't want it to be so enclosed inside the bay doors, inside the building. And then we have the wing wall at the north west corner of the building that will provide additional screening as well. So anyways, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Barney, I'm sure you do. We'll recognize you.
Thank you very much. I guess maybe the question I had is, you have a lot better detail on your landscaping on this. Thank you. The question I had on that is also, that screen wall is, the purpose for the screen wall is, does that extend past into like the screening of the garage doors?
Not council member, commissioner, not totally. Our bay doors are about 10'8". So this is a 6-foot screen wall, and the reason why we did half masonry steel trellis, I mean, we don't want to have this 10-foot, 12-foot high masonry wall that I think nobody was going to be happy with.
Sure.
But it's going to, normally a screen wall would be 3 foot, so we're doing 6 foot, and then with landscaping, so I think it's going to be much more aesthetically pleasing than a, solid barrier. So it's going to provide additional screen.
Now, I didn't see it on the diagram, but maybe, I missed it, because I didn't have a real good copy of it. But the area where where are you dumping your oil? Are you keeping it on site, or do you have an external build out area on the property for your oil reservoir?
Yeah, no, through the councilwoman, commissioner, we actually have the new oil tanks, and then we have a used oil compartment that gets pumped out periodically.
Where's it at?
It's inside the equipment room,
structure?
if you will. Yeah, it's. I don't have a pointer, but it's inside. Everything's inside the building. We don't use anything underground or anything to that. So it's all in the equipment room. It's hard to point, but you can see the equipment room where we have our office, restroom, and then the equipment in the middle. That's where our used oil tanks are.
Okay. As far as a dumpster area, where will that be also?
It's up at the upper right-hand corner, up at the northeast corner of the site.
Okay.
You can see the refuse. And this was something that we work with staff, but this is the last iteration with the orientation so that it's ease of pickup from the on-site access.
Sure, it has to have a good swing away for it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, Jeff?
I have one quick question now that since we put it on the agenda. My only question, I think that, by the way, the building design and the sensitivity of creating a faux wall out in front to really hide the depth and not have garage bay doors fronting shade, really applaud you guys. It's not cheap to do. You're building a second wall out in front of an already exposed wall. So thank you for the effort, for the appearance of the building. My only question is with regard to the site design. If we go back and look at the site plan as you've got it drawn, go to the landscape plan. It's a little bit larger, if you don't mind. When you've got your exit drive, after you've gone through the facility, my only concern is the amount of kind of linear asphalt along that diagonal northern property line that you have. Another way of doing that is essentially you've got your exit drive that's hitting at a acute angle to the interior driveway of the shopping center. I didn't know if there's a way that you can essentially reshape the eastern curb of that exit drive so that it sort of pops out a little bit, so it realigns that drive perpendicular almost to the interior driveway. And Ms. Posler, you're the one probably more familiar with this, but I know that just from a circulation standpoint, when you've got driveways that hit at angles with other drives, it's twofold. First of all, you've got cars that are making angular turning movements. Second of all, you've got a diagonal hypotenuse of a triangle that is the length of the asphalt of that driveway rather than a right angle. And it seems like there could be some room to expand the amount of the landscape island on this piece. I don't know if you can, I could go up and point at it.
If there's a point. Yeah, no, it doesn't show it up.
Right there.
So if I may. Yeah, sorry. So is the intent to
Sorry, I
widen
didn't,
that?
I didn't want to say anything that wouldn't be caught on public
Oh.
record on there. But
Oh, I
it's
see.
essentially, if you could, I think just, the only comment just in general would be to work with staff if there's a way to
Okay.
increase the landscape island size adjacent to the interior driveway. I've been in the shopping center a lot. That area is a pain. And I think that most people are going to be exiting out and taking a left turn out to get back to the stoplight that's at that intersection and not taking a right to go up into another shopping area that's kind of hard to navigate. So I think most of your traffic's going to be taking a left anyway. And the downside to that is you're probably going to get people maybe running over the curb if you start to bump it out. But anyway, I would just suggest working with staff, and I'll add that into stipulations if it's possible to expand that area.
Right. Through the councilwoman, board member, I think as long as we maintain the 24-foot drive, I think if we angle that exit side, the east side of it, we would have to angle the west side part of it, just to make sure that we have the 24. And then one point, just I want to make sure is, those customers don't get out of their car. Very, very rarely will somebody actually get off. Maybe if there's an issue, they'll get off, but they all come in through here, and it's, 10-minute, you're in and out. So there's really no parking for the customers. So you're not going to have a lot of people, aside from the customers, from the parking. But I think if we can work with Katie and staff, I have no issues.
And again, it may be tedious enough that there's not really a warranted change to the plan. I just want to mention that it may be something to look at. I'm not concerned about the pedestrian activity. I'm concerned about just the sheer amount of asphalt
Understand.
and uninterrupted drive surface there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Do we want to make that a stipulation?
Yeah, I'll go
sorry.
ahead and make a.
I'm
a
sorry.
motion. Sorry.
David wanted to speak as well.
A question about your signage for oil change. Right now, I see it's facing on the Shea side only. Is there any thoughts of putting that additional signage on any of the other faces of the building?
Councilwoman, board member, really the intent right now, and again, this sign package will be on a separate permit. These are just for reference, so really the intent is just to have it off of Shea Boulevard and then just to the side. We don't put any signage on the rear. There's really no benefit to it. So I think really it's just going to be like probably 2 signs, aside from some directional signage.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions from the commissioners? Okay, do we want to make it a stipulation on the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 4, 23-DR-2023, with the staff recommended stipulations and the added stipulation by the board to work with staff to see if there is a way to possibly increase the landscape island size between the 2 driveways onto the site. After finding that the development application meets the applicable Development Review Board criteria.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Janik,
Approve.
Vice Chair Joyner,
Yes.
Board Member Brand,
Yes.
Board Member Faki,
Yes.
Board Member Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move along to consent agenda item number 5, 34DR 2023 Scottsdale 5th Avenue Apartments mural.
Hi again, Councilwoman Janik, Commissioner Gonzalez, members of the DRB. I'm also the case coordinator here for the Scottsdale 5th mural. case number 34DR 2023. For a quick presentation, the project summary here is for an existing mural that was applied to a building facade measuring about 1,000 square feet in total size, located on an existing two-story apartment complex right there off of Indian School and 64th Street. For a context aerial, we see that this site is located at the southeast corner of Indian School, 64th, primarily surrounded by single-family adjacent to the site and the Paiute Neighbor Center off of Osborne there to the south. For a closer image, we see the apartment complex site here. The Arizona Canal and the Crosscut Canal are also at the intersection along Indian School and 64th. The Christian Science First Church is directly east of the project site. Zoning for this site is R5 multifamily, and as I mentioned, primarily R1 single family surrounding the site. For the actual mural location, it is on that very northern facade there. That upper right image shows a before, and the bottom is a after image of that mural applied to the building. Here's a photo of that mural being painted to that northern facade. The design of the mural consists of a variety of vibrant tones that also depict designs of Sonoran deserts, landscape, flora, fauna, albeit a more abstract take on it. But you can see that the intent there was to mimic some of the qualities of the Sonoran deserts. So some of the key items here with this project proposal is that the mural was applied to the building prior to city approval, so this is an existing mural on the building today. The design is generally consistent with desert flora and fauna, which is what staff encourages with mural proposals. Also, the mural color is generally consistent with those earth tones, some vibrant and some muted in that general category. Also, we have not received any community input for this case. So the formal request for you today is approval of the existing mural that was applied to the building facade, about 1,000 square feet in the overall size, located at the existing apartment complex at 6405 East Indian School Road with the multifamily R5 zoning. Staff is recommending approval subject to the case stipulations in your packet. That is the conclusion of staff's presentation. The applicant, Mike, is here to address any questions you may have, as well as myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have an applicant presentation.
If you want to flip around my slides, you can just
You can
use
just go
the-
back. Oh, just back this way?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we can do this. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Cook. I'm the owner of Scottsdale 5th, and I think we'll just utilize this presentation if it's okay, but I think I wanted to make sure that it was understood that putting this type of art on the buildings that we own many buildings in Phoenix, this is actually the first where we wanted to bring art to what we view to be an underserved tenant. And so via a relationship that I have with the artist, we decided to turn it into a community art project. And so we enlisted Girls Hope, Boys Hope. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that organization, but it's a nonprofit where they support younger children that maybe can't afford their education. And so they support them through scholarships all the way from elementary school all the way through college. And we wanted to, and it was really important for the artist who did this on a pro bono basis, for her to bring young people into the world of art and let them experience what it's like for an artist to actually do a large-scale project of this nature. So we brought them on 2 days. It was during their spring break, and so these were volunteers, young men, young women that came out and then spent the better part of 2 days painting this with the artist. And so it was a really great part. We brought our tenants out to sort of share the experience with our tenants so that they could also enjoy not only the finished product, but also the process that goes into it. We're really proud of the fact that This property is really a amalgamation of the entire community. So we have 11 tenants that are City of Scottsdale tenants. We have some young professionals. We have elderly folk as well. And so it's, it's a community that we've put a lot of money into and a lot of time in. And this was just one of the things that we wanted to provide from an amenity perspective as well. So a little bit of background.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments from the commissioners? Okay, Barney, we'll start with you.
Well, obviously, because you've developed these other projects and everything, you said, is this your first one in Scottsdale?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Well, I figured that because you did something without approval. So does the city of Phoenix allow you to modify your buildings like this without first asking for a permit on it?
So we do exterior painting, and we've always just done the exterior painting as part of our renovation programs. But as I had mentioned, this is really the first sort of a test project to bring art like this. And so we haven't actually gone through that process on any of our other buildings.
So the city of Phoenix doesn't require a permit on it?
I would guess if Scottsdale doesn't, I would guess Phoenix probably doesn't either. But when you paint exterior paint, they haven't required approval for exterior paint.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
I've got a comment.
Ali?
Or you want to go first? Why don't you go first, Ali? You know.
Mine is easy, actually, I mean, I look at this, if it's before us today for approval, and I like it. So I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff?
I was going to add that I'm glad this got onto maybe public viewing and public agenda for this, because I think that the composition and the execution of this, minus the lack of getting preliminary approval, but essentially how this was approached from a public mural standpoint is exactly what we want to see in this city. So I would applaud both local artistry, engagement with youth, engagement with community, and the content of it not being something personal or attractive, but it's actually reflective of the community that it's in. I drive by here all the time. It's improved my drive greatly, so I thank you for doing it. And I hope that this content and how you went about creating this is a really good example for other property owners. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
With a permit.
With a permit, yes, ma'am.
I made that count.
Anybody else? And I too agree. I want to concur with what Jeff said. I think it's wonderful when you involve the youth of the community as well as the rest of the community. It is wonderful artwork. It's uplifting. So thank you very much for undertaking this. And with approval, I hope you do more of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do I hear motion for approval?
I'll be happy to.
I'll make them. I've approved all of them.
I figured everybody would jump
Voice
on
is
this.
getting tired. I'll move to approve case number 5, 34-DR-2023, based on staff recommended stipulation and meeting the Development Review Board criteria.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Janik?
Approve.
Vice Chair Joyner?
Yes.
Board Member Brand?
Yes.
Board Member Faki?
Yes.
Board Member Mason?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
With reservation, I'll say no, only on the case that I do not approve of non-permitted items. We've, in the past, I've come up against different murals at some point or other in the city, and I've always had to look at the legitimate cause for some of the murals. I love this design. It's beautiful. It's important. It's what's necessary. But unfortunately, I do not approve of anybody doing something like this without prior permits. Thank you.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move along to the regular agenda, item number 6, 9DR 2023 Headwaters Residential Healthcare Facility, and we'll start with staff presentation.
Councilwoman Janik, Commissioner Gonzalez, I have also the last one for the afternoon here. I'm the case coordinator for Headwaters Residential Healthcare Facility, case 9DR 2023. The request, or at least the project summary for you, is going to be a new 171-unit minimal residential healthcare facility located at the southeast corner of 100th Street and Frank Lloyd Wright. It's going to be comprised of a 3-story central facility and 5 one-story duplex cottages, all totaling about 217,000 square feet of overall building area. So for that site, we see it's at the southeast corner of Frank Lloyd Wright, 100th Street. Directly towards the west is Aztec Park, which is a city park, as well as some small commercial areas. And then directly across the way at the northwest section is another commercial center. Primarily to the north, east, and south will be single-family residential units. However, directly east is an existing residential healthcare facility called the Belmont Village Senior Living. And as I mentioned, at the west side, you see a little bit more of the commercial centers and that Aztec Park City Park. Something to note here is that the site is currently vacant and has been vacant since annexation, which I believe was 1975, so almost 50 years. Some other history with the zoning. This project recently went in front of City Council for a rezoning to PCCO a couple months ago, back in February, which also includes the site to the east of Belmont. So both sites are that planned community commercial office district. And as I mentioned, there's those single-family units to the north, east of the subject site, and south, and the commercial up there at the northwest corner. For a site plan overlay, in dark gray are the building improvements on the site. That central facility is going to be your 3-story with 4 interlocking buildings. To the south are those 5 one-story duplex cottages. Parking is primarily contained around the perimeter. This is all surface grade, no undergrade parking with this proposal. Additionally, access is served from Frank Lloyd Wright to the north and also 100th Street to the west. For a more simple site plan with some landscaping, we see that this site is also going to be accommodating a pedestrian connection across 100th Street right there at that westmost site entryway. This site is also along Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard, but unlike an auto dealership, the landscaping is a little bit requires a little bit more density. So there are certain ratios for cacti, palo verde, and mesquite, which is reflective of the applicant's landscape plan along North Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard to the north there, and it also wraps around towards the west down 100th Street. And as you'll notice, to the south there is a buffer area of landscaping. A unique component of the landscaping for this project is the retention of mature existing landscaping along the perimeter frontages and the rear property line. Jumping to the building elevations, as I mentioned, this is directly off of Frank Lloyd Wright, so the design guidelines are applicable to this project proposal. The applicant team has developed a concept here that closely reflects the Frank Lloyd Wright inspired design. Also to mention, the site is about a mile away from Taliesin West, so there's a lot of inspiration that the applicant team has grappled with this proposal and the accompanying design guidelines. That includes muted earth tones, natural finishes, grid stack CMU, some horizontal and vertical expression, as you can see in the building elevations. For some more detail and some inspiration, the applicant team put together material color board, some site details to further reinforce their Frank Lloyd Wright inspired design. And on the right-hand side of the screen are those elevations for those one-story duplex cottages. Some perspectives, another item to note here along the frontage, the applicant team will be incorporating some screen walls, but also inspired by Frank Lloyd Wright for the design. So to summarize some of those key items I mentioned, the site is subject to the Frank Lloyd Wright design guidelines. The site has been vacant since annexation, about 50 years. The PCCO rezoning was approved 7-0 by City Council back in February. The PCCO is shared there with that existing Belmont facility, which in total is about 11 acres for both those sites at that corner. There's going to be preservation of existing mature landscaping, as I mentioned, along the perimeter and to the rear of the site for that landscape buffer. There's going to be a pedestrian connection across North 100th Street. There's also a nuisance control plan and updated construction hours that carried over from the zoning case incorporated into your DRB stipulation packet. And for this DRB application, we have not received any community input. For the formal request, it is approval of the site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations for the new 3-story minimal residential healthcare facility, comprised of 171 dwelling units and 5 1-story duplex cottages, totaling 217,400 square feet, all on a approximate 6.5-acre portion of property located at 13870 North Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard, with that planned community district comparable commercial office PCCO zoning. Staff recommendation this afternoon for this case is approval, subject to the case stipulations. That summarizes staff's presentation of the Headwaters project. Jeff and his team are here with their own PowerPoint presentation, so I'll hand it to them and I'll be available for questions afterwards.
Thank you, Wayland. Applicants?
Well, good afternoon. Councilman Janik and DRB members, appreciate coming before you for this important case. I'm Doug Sidnor. I'm an architect representing the Santalun and Sidnor Architectural and Engineering team. Joining me is fellow architect Hirsch Parikh of Santalun Architecture, and we will both be making a brief presentation for you. We also have other team members here today attending, and they're available to answer any questions that you may have as well. So as the applicant, we have thoroughly read the DRB report authored by staff, and we agree to all of the terms and stipulations without exception. The proposed project does meet the character and design element of the 2035 general plan, the DRB criteria, the sensitive design principles, and the Frank Lloyd Wright design guidelines. Might focus on that just for a second. We are very aware of Wright's body of work, particularly in Arizona, and especially Taliesin West, which is just kind of east of the property. And it definitely influenced the architectural character, the materiality, and the details for this project. We would like to briefly touch on the site and landscape plan, the building elevations, and a little bit about sustainability. With that, Hirsch?
Afternoon, board members. My name is Hirsch Parikh. Just like to briefly touch on the site plan and then hand back over to Doug. As was mentioned in the staff report, we have, I think it's important to create good buffering and also maintain existing landscape heritage. So we're, our plan holds on to, salvages the existing mature landscaping at the street frontage and also along the south, and equally provides, as you can see on the plan, very robust desert landscape buffering along Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. Not that dense along 100th because we have some of our detention facilities there, but a very robust buffer all along the south, which was part of making sure that our use and development is very sensitive to the single-family scale to the south. So of course, therefore, the 10 casitas we have are also along the south. They act as sort of bridge architecture. As you flip back here. Also want to mention just the shape of the main building. It's broken down into 4 wings, so it appears that it's actually 4 buildings. That really breaks the massing down. And then there's penetrations into the courtyard that let air in and out, which is a kind of a time-tested arid area architectural strategy. Provides shade in the courtyard, but also lets the wind through, but creates a great deal of permeability for the pedestrians. And through this connection, our residents will not only enjoy the courtyard, but find extensions to the greater neighborhood, to Aztec Park, to Belmont, to the neighborhoods to the south and the north. Just want to second that it's important also to use that, meet the Frank Lloyd Wright design guidelines and do an interesting and varied screening all around the site. So instead of doing one continuous wall, we're proposing to do it in different segments, first with some CMU masonry, then with some metal in different interesting shapes and interruptions. I'll hand it back over to Doug.
So in regards to the building elevations, I just want to touch on a few highlights. We did take the floor plan and the various building components shift in and out. So there's these strong shadows that break the scale of the massing down. I think that's extremely important. We use, on the outside corners of these wings that we just touched on, there are pitched roof areas and the edges cantilever out. So again, it creates these strong shadows and it kind of erodes that outside corner so it's more softened. And then that same area we used balconies and patios on all three levels. And they're very sculptural when you look at them three-dimensionally because they kind of fly off that corner in different directions. Continuing on with the elevations and the enlarged version here, we do have some horizontal banding that occurs at the second, third, and roof line levels. It's approximately a foot deep, but it's kind of this horizontal banding that wraps the entire project and reflects the overall horizontal massing of the structure and the kind of the layering of these three levels. So it kind of grabs the site, hugs it in its horizontal manner, which we thought was important. There's also a broken roof line where the form steps down in the recessed areas where we have the terracotta kind of color accenting that wall, and then it steps up to slightly higher parapet and the walls that project out. And of course, in addition to that, we have the articulated stair towers that you saw in the overall elevation that kind of breaks that line in a significant way. As was said by staff, we do have a palette of natural materials such as stacked masonry, plaster, and some natural metals. Also at the balconies, we have these vertical slats that kind of filter the light and create a visual depth to the elevation, and they kind of vary from level to level as you go up the elevation. So it's kind of a more playful move. It kind of creates this kind of kinetic effect across the elevation horizontally. And continuing with kind of the colors, it's a warm, kind of muted palette, as you can see here with the one accent color to the lower left there. These colors are a little cooler are focused exclusively on those breezeway connections that Hirsch touched on at the second and third level. We want to kind of visually have them deeply recessed, and we want the colors of the window framing and the panels to all reinforce that. One clarification for the record that we did pick up on, we wanted to share. Item M to the lower right is the finish on the Casitas north side garage doors. They are aluminum as it notes, but the finish is going to be a color that matches the cementitious solid panels on that same building and also the main structure. It is not the clear anodized aluminum noted there. And then lastly, we wanted to touch on sustainability as a priority on the project and is reflective with a lot of the new green and conservation codes adopted by the city. We're pursuing the leadership in energy and environmental design at the silver level, which is very aggressive. A couple of aspects that reinforce that are well-insulated building envelopes, light-colored and reflective roof coatings, deeply recessed windows, so there's a long shadow line at them, shade canopies at many of those same windows. Might note that the canopies are prioritized where they functionally actually work with the sun angles. so they're more at the severe west and south elevations, a little less to the east and the north. We talked about deep roof overhangs. We're looking at low energy consumption HVAC systems, equipment, and LED lighting. We're encouraging various modes of transportation on the project. Low water use plumbing fixtures, drip irrigation systems for the landscape throughout the project. And the last point we wanted to touch on was we are providing solar arrays for on-site energy generation at the parking canopies. So in summary, we've strived very hard to respect the many lessons learned by Frank Lloyd Wright's work, and we believe it reflects in the architecture being proposed, and we think it'll be an appropriate fit for this particular neighborhood in the area. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with David.
I have a couple of questions. I was looking at your, see, just a minute. On the, I guess it's the south side of the building of your development, around the back of the one-story buildings, looks like there's a trail that's been cut. Is that your intention, to put a trail around behind those buildings?
There is a trail proposed within that kind of decomposed granite area. It's primarily for security, for maintenance. We're really not encouraging active public use of that trail. It's kind of in that quiet zone, and we want to kind of keep it that way.
It looked like it was more for internal use.
I'm sorry?
Looked like it was more for internal use.
Yes.
Okay. Then I have another question. On your shading for the balconies, on the third level, is that going to actually shade the balconies? Because on your diagrams and what I've seen, it looks like the lower two floors have the advantage of a balcony shading the balcony below, but the top floor does not.
The renderings do suggest that. What we'd like to commit to doing here is explore the cost of additional shade trellising at the third level balcony lid, so it does mitigate the sun. Like all projects, we're aggressively making this financially viable. So there's been hard choices as we've gone along. We've tried very, very hard to respect the integrity of what all of you saw many months ago in the entitlements approval process. So we'd be happy to report back that detail when it comes about.
No, I'll just encourage you to work with staff to try to, if that would be consistent with improving the solar impression of the building. Because if you live on the third floor and you want to go out on your balcony, you can't.
We agree. The rendering suggests it kind of softens the upper edge of the building so the space kind of flows over it, but there's a technical point to be made as you suggest.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Janik.
Yes, Michael Ann.
I'm surprised you didn't mention the thing that I like the best about the application, and that's that you're putting those gorgeous saguaros in, and they're large, and you put, I think it was 10 or 12 are going in, and I just think that's going to be beautiful, so I commend you on that. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to do it. Also, just to be clear, we're mandated to do it as much as we love them.
See, you didn't have to say that. You just could have gotten the kudos.
I'm too candid and honest sometimes.
Thank you.
Okay, Barney?
Thank you. Mr. Sidnor, first of all, looking at the probably the northwest corner where the pedestrian crosswalks will be, crossing Frank Lloyd Wright and then going opposite, going towards cross, I think, 100th Street at that intersection light. What's the setback like on that, on the curb there for the pedestrian area and everything? Do you know how that's done with that wall area?
40 feet? What's it on Franklin?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think we're an average of 40 feet setback along Frank Lloyd Wright. and that's also respected on 100th Street. There are existing crosswalks at that intersection on all sides, and with a street light that's there. We do want to enhance the northwestern corner of the property,
Yes.
and in doing so, you need to respect the vehicular triangular zone where you can't have items over a certain height. We do have seating. There'll be signage in a separate deferred submittal. There's also kind of a gateway portal structure where we kind of identify it more than just lower landscaping.
Do you have that design, or do you have that into the, I didn't see it, that's.
I know it's been designed. I think it's coming with the permit set.
Okay.
The answer is yes, we do have it.
You do? Okay. Staff's aware of it then.
It's, just to describe it, it's a pair of masonry columns with some steel lattice work on top. It's very simple. It's not a large shade structure.
And that's going to, yeah, but that's going to be 40 feet, you know, the sidewalks, what is going to be, how wide are the sidewalks going to be there?
Well, on
be
the streets, they're already pre-existing, and we're simply going to respect those and
Okay.
and retain them.
And just landscape around it, that's what you?
Correct.
Okay. So, just because we're trying to make these intersection corners, you know, that, you know from experience that those intersections there for that area is probably pretty ugly. And so anything you can do, such as setbacks and any kind of architectural detail you can do would be appreciated, because we're trying to pull our setbacks back and have better sidewalks and better looks without obviously moving any utilities or anything of that sort. But anything you can do for those setbacks there to make those corners more architecturally better design, or lack of anything else, is certainly going to be appreciated. And then the other question I had is on the palette that you had two palettes there. One was for the facing north. Am I correct in that? Particularly that terracotta-looking palette. Your first palette.
Yeah, this is the typical facade on the main structure.
Right.
The upper right is that accent color that we're proposing.
Okay. That accent coloration there, does it tie in only to your development part, or is there any of that? Or are you planning on doing anything with that coloration onto the existing building that's on site there too?
Well, the visual tie-in, which we did not touch on, we should have, with Belmont Village, is that the upper two solid walls at second and third level, that color matches what you find on Belmont Village. So the majority of the exterior surface of the proposed new project is a direct visual tie-in and is compatible with the Belmont Village. They do not have the terracotta accent that's unique to our immediate project.
Okay, I guess probably, I like the color palettes that you have available. I'm not too crazy about the terracotta banding or however you describe that. But otherwise than that, I'm very happy with the design and overall architecture of the new development. Hopefully, it'll screen enough of the old development that's on the property that it'll make it more attractive. But I appreciate your thought and design in this. Thank you.
I might add, just to clarify, when we talk about crosswalks on 100th Street, south of the intersection of 100th Street and Frank Lloyd Wright, we are proposing a crosswalk with a more direct link over to Aztec Park in the school further south.
Yes,
and there's the rapid action beacon that'll be triggered when pedestrians need to cross to make it a safe crossing.
Luckily, I was on the planning when you brought that forward, and that was the one thing that convinced me. That's why I was looking at that intersection corner so heavily, because I think a good transition like that, improvement of that, will definitely help the area. Because that, like you say, that property's been sitting vacant for almost 50 years, and it's just been an eyesore ever since they built those other things there at the time. Thank you.
I might just add to the other point about the northwest corner. There's a half a dozen features in that area that are defining it as special, and it is on that corner, and I listed a few of those. The walls also kind of inflect at that point to encourage pedestrian traffic into the property. And Hirsch described the varied walls that we're using to break up the scale of it. And the landscape's very aggressive, going down both street frontages as relates to that.
Yes, Ellie?
Councilwoman, thank you. I will try not to comment too much on the elevation, but I have just a couple of questions, I guess. Architecture-wise, if you don't mind going back to the typical facade you have, the blow-up you had actually on the screen before, yeah, this will work. So just so I understand, so you're using those cement board on top of the veneer, right? CMU veneer? So what you show on the screen is a pattern of the CMU board?
The concrete masonry unit, veneer units are held at the first floor as the solid walls you see there with a slightly warmer color. Above that, at second level, third level, and the roof parapet are the cementitious panels. We wanted to create kind of a striated verticality within the walls, and we want to achieve that with a smooth board and then apply in a rather erratic rhythmic pattern battens, and they would be of varying widths and varying dimensions from one to the other. So it kind of, moves across the elevation in that fashion. Those battens do not align from the second level to the third level or from the third level to the parapet, so they do vary. And the hope is, well, not a hope, I know it will work, the battens are stopped short of the third floor line and the roof lines to create this just subtle, recessed, smooth banding. We're not going as far as metal trims or other aggressive ways to create the banding. It's just that the texture and the shadows stop short of it along the upper edge and the lower edge of the banding. And it's a subtle, I think, elegant touch that we wanted to.
And this is why I bring it up. I mean, I appreciate you mentioning the banding because this was my second question. I like those cement board, and I've seen a different pattern, but I'm assuming you try to illustrate the pattern that you envision in this elevation here, because I see a lot of line. So this take in the same thing we have between the second floor and the third floor, in the middle where you have the more reddish, I guess, stucco. Is this metal, or is it still the same? What kind of band do you have between and where you have,
Well, on the face of the balconies, it's a metal trim.
It is metal.
It's metal.
And this is the same as you have for the awning of the windows?
Correct.
Okay, so it's going to be similar material, similar color. It seems like you have some opening in the awning as well. It's not solid?
Correct, at the third level.
I mean, but
it's otherwise solid at the second floor line and the third floor line.
Correct. When I see it, it seems like even at the window, you have a more slated awning. It's not a solid awning, correct?
I'm missing.
That it's slatted, it's not opaque.
The awning. Yes. Your window punches that are in the lighter color do have a horizontal canopy, shading canopy on the upper edge, and it in fact is wider angular slats to mitigate the direct sun.
Okay, and going back, again, you have to keep in mind, I am a civil engineer, so I'm asking a question. I appreciate you working with me. So when it comes to the reddish stucco you have, compare this pattern to your cement board, I guess. Is it going to be the same smoothness? Is it different material? Because it seems one of them you're doing stucco and the other one you're just doing a panel, correct?
Well, the cementitious panels also occur at the rust or terracotta colored panels here.
Okay,
It's the same material, it just doesn't have the battens.
I got you. And when it comes to the connection between the window area and the balcony, the side, is it going to be more the reddish color, the rusty color, or is it more the white panels?
The light tan color wraps around the sides of the projecting volume, so it reads volumetrically. It's not just the yeah, there, like it shows here.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, this is what I was referring to because I wasn't sure the vertical material, I'm assuming is metal as well, right? The vertical material you have between the floor, it seems like the same material you're using for your awning on the windows, correct? Is this a correct statement?
Yeah, sorry, that's right. So anything, so actually very subtle to see, but there's a lighter color and a more tan color. Anything that's in that lighter whitish color is made of metal. And that means the balcony railings, any of these vertical metal fins that act as kind of a shadow fins, any of these horizontal bands, all of that sort of whitish stuff is metal. The tan stuff is the board and batten, but not done in a traditional way. The battens, as Doug said, they're going to be random, so they're going to give you this vertical striated look.
Fair enough. And, and I don't recall, but I mean, I see in your elevation something on the roofs. There is no roof amenities on this one. I don't recall seeing any roof amenities. So this is just more like a trellises you have on the left floor, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so in these towers, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm also asking more on the northwest
On the left
corner.
side?
Correct.
Yeah, that's not an amenity. It's just a vertical tower element, kind of a Frank Lloyd Wrightian element that occurs in multiple corners.
Okay. So, fair enough. I appreciate you answering this. If you don't mind, just going back to the site plan, and I have, I don't have the black and white version, but this will do. So, currently, from my understanding, you have a cross-access agreement along a parking agreement with the property to the east, right? These parking that you have in your property right now, are those shared parking or those are only for your resident?
Everything on our property, inside that property line, is exclusively for our use.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with their site plan approval. So when it comes into the access, I see what you did on 100th Street, and again, I love the layout, but when you're coming in, I'm assuming it's looked too tight, but I'm assuming this meet all the trash and fire circulation? Okay. Talking about trash, by the way, I wasn't able, and again, I thought this southeast corner, you have parking on the western side of those casitas, or you call them, I guess, not casitas. What did you call them? Hold on.
Casitas or cottages.
Cottages, okay. You don't have, those are parking on both sides. Those are not trash enclosure, right? Can you show me just your trash enclosure? It's really tough to see it on this one, so.
It's, the trash enclosure is up at the northeastern corner. And access to it is along the north drive and the west drive. It is typically not used the south or east drives to access it.
Okay, but it seems like you're going to go in from your drop-off area, go east, and then pick it up. It seems to me like it makes sense to be more facing to the east side now. Isn't this where 110 will be your drop-off?
Well, this was a detail extensively coordinated with city staff about directions for solid waste pickup.
And with the neighbor who obviously doesn't want the trash pickup right in their face. So that was coordinated with both staff and the neighbor.
Fair enough. Pedestrian connection, the same thing. It seems like you have also another connection going on to the property to the east on the northeast corner, right? From what I'm seeing, at least here. So this is connecting to their sidewalk.
Yes.
And this is where you're getting your ADA similar to the west of this access drive, I guess, common access drive, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all what I have. I like the elevation overall. I like the material. I mean, the cement board looked really neat when it's all done. So, and you guys did a great job on the elevation. I really like it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? Jeff, would you like to speak?
Sure. In disclosure, I have had a previous conversation with Doug and his team as well to get some clarification on building materials and the composition of the building. Most of what I was inquiring about was the board and batten system. So I know there's a lot of prefabricated products that are considered board and batten that are striped that don't have depth to them. So that was the important clarity point. I like the way that your team has approached it. Sometimes with that project, just in my history with it, you run into problems where it doesn't look good on expansion joints. So you guys have actually created a gap in the vertical so that at the expansion joint between the floors, you're not seeing discontinuity within the vertical. So that's, I think from a design perspective, you've approached it, you've got a good material, you're getting a craftsman sort of augmentation of that material, and I think it's going to look really good on the building. So I appreciate the full composition. I also appreciate, I think it goes understated what you're doing at the breezeways. You're creating additional exterior facade cost with zero interior square footage reclamation. So you're increasing the skin cost of this building to create corridors and paseos and recesses in the building at 4 different locations. It's something that I don't particularly see very often in multifamily development, and I appreciate your approach to that and what you've done, both creating recesses in the building as well as exposing the staircase, which is also creating a break in the building. So I think compositionally in a lot of different ways, the team has done a very good job of approaching the building and creating something that can be built, but has an artistic edge to not super fancy, but really good building materials and that have a solid history in the area. So I appreciate the effort. I also really appreciate the straight stack CMU. And we also did talk about to make sure that the CMU base is actually proud and protruding proud of the actual material above it. So there's actually depth in the material, and there's shadow and depth on the facade. So I appreciate all that. I also would say, and as a counterpoint, I do like the orange color. I think it's very reminiscent of, it is reminiscent directly of Taliesin, as well as kind of a rusted metal history of coloration within the desert. I think it's appropriate, and I think it's has its place here, specifically with your adjacency to Frank Lloyd Wright. So I'm very much in favor of the application. I appreciate your work on the project.
And may I add one more thing, because I'd like to give some kudos here to Mr. Sidner. I don't know if you noticed, but the plan of the building is reminiscent of the 2 interlocking arms logo of Taliesin, which dates back to our Native American history. So.
Perfect. And I'm also a huge fan of pinwheels, just in general, as a design inspiration for a number of different reasons. But I would also say that I agree with the rest of the board here. We also did talk on the phone about having some sort of shade mechanism or respite from the sun for those balconies that are up on the upper levels. If it's something that's from a cost mechanism, I think that the value that's generated from those versus some of the value that's generated for over window coverings as well as for decorative vertical slatting is a better functional value than maybe some of the other elements on the building. So I would suggest that you work with staff to see if there's a way to address that in some fashion.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to comment? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Heck, I've made a motion on all 3. I can make a motion on this one.
Whatever.
The only thing I think that we have to include in the motion outside of the staff recommended stipulation is possibly working with staff on the 3rd floor shading elements for the balcony. So I'll go ahead and push that forward. Let's see. I'll make a motion to approve case 9-DR-2023 per the staff recommended stipulations, with the added stipulation that the applicant goes back and works with staff on a possible solution to add some sort of shade to the private open spaces on the 3rd level balconies that fits within their pro forma of making the project happen. And after finding that the development application meets the development review board criteria.
I second it. I'll second the motion.
Councilwoman Janik?
Yes.
Vice Chair Joyner,
Yes.
Board Member Brand,
Yes.
Board Member Faki,
Yes.
Board Member Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, I believe that we are adjourned.
Second that.